And welcome everyone in another episode of Researcher Celebrity. And for this month, we are celebrating women in STEM, all the researchers from India who are working in India or abroad. And today we have our celebrity, Dr. Surashree Kulkarani. Surashree has done his bachelor's and master's in life sciences from St. Xavier's College, Mumbai, and then moved for the master's to University of Bombay, from where she went for her PhD in University of Wisconsin. After successful completion of which, she moved to Professor Ethan Beer's lab in University of California, San Diego for her postdoctoral research, and finally landed in industry in a company named ProteinSimple as an application scientist. Welcome, Surashree.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Raja, for inviting me for this Zoom meeting and for this conversation.
Yeah. So the path, how we start our conversation is how and when you decided that you want to be a researcher.
Yeah. So I guess I didn't know that I wanted to be a researcher very early on, for unlike some people. I had planned to give actually my medical entrance exam, and I had prepared for that. So during my high school or during the 12th standard, I had given CET exam for various medical colleges and entrances as such. And it came because my dad is a doctor, my mom has her own pathology lab. So there was some influence on me joining the medical field. But when I started digging into it, I realized that even after completing my medical studies or MBBS at that time, I still wanted to go into research. So I was still looking at options of going and exploring research options outside India, and specifically looking at the United States as a viable option because of its innovation and because of its you know um, good funding opportunities and good research opportunities. So having said that, then I took a step back and I decided not to continue with medical sciences, but continue to do my bachelor's in life sciences at St. Xavier's College, which I think was a very good, smart decision for me, because the teachers at St. Xavier's were excellent. They were not just good teachers, but they were also good. They're providing good guidance on what lies ahead of your bachelor's. So there were many job opportunities coming. There were a lot of companies who were coming to St. Xavier's for recruiting people directly out of bachelor's. But I decided I'll take a step back and do my master's as well as study for my GRE, for my TOEFL exam, which is required to do these to enter into any college or university in the United States. And while doing that, I also explored opportunities by doing internships at IIT Bombay. I did an internship at NCL in Pune, at King Edward's Memorial Hospital in Bombay. So I met a lot of people who were doing research and who were very happy and successful in their research studies. And that sort of led me to reaffirming that, yeah, this is the right path for me and this is something that I should be exploring forward. So yeah, I think networking was very important during these times at Xavier's and university, where I was doing bachelor's and master's, to basically talk to people and see what they feel about in terms of how research life looks like, what are the exciting parts, what are the challenges, and how does it fuel into your passion of doing science. Like, do you enjoy doing it versus this is something that you just want to do because everybody else is telling you, or maybe it looks like a more logical step that you should be doing your PhD or your postdoc. So that definitely helped, and I had a lot of good mentors who guided me along this path. And then yeah, during my masters, I gave all of these exams, I gave a lot of interviews, and I came to the United States for my PhD.
So this brief research exposure which you got in IIT and NCL, how was that the igniting thing that you want to do a PhD, or it was just reaffirming that, okay, you always were interested in that?
Yeah, no, I had doubts, because I had heard stories that it can be a very challenging process, especially when I met the PhD students at IIT Bombay, or I met them at NCL. They definitely told me that, yeah, it's hard. it takes it takes a lot of time, and it can be challenging in various ways because your personal life might be disconnected from your science. You might be out of space with your peers, where some of your peers are already earning, they are already on their path to financial independence, whereas you are still stuck in a role where you're still a student. You're still trying to make do with whatever money you're getting through your stipend and things like that. So it's a lot of aspects, right? It's not just the fact that it's challenging to do science, which is never linear, but it's also the other aspects which can be a factor in you deciding this. So I had my back and forth moments, but I also knew that I knew that this this journey would lead me to something more better in terms of fueling my passion for science. So like if I wanted to do it, um, it sort of made a more logical step to get there. So yeah, it definitely ignited my decision. It reaffirmed or gave me more confidence that this is the right thing to do, and sort of helped me take the next steps as I went along. It helped me take the next steps for applications and giving exams for entering into colleges and universities for grad school.
So when you made up your mind that you want to do research or join a PhD program so that you can work on it, and then you do research, being a researcher for the entire life, if I can say that. So when you were selected for your PhD position at University of Wisconsin, how was the initial reaction that have you ever thought of doing PhD in India?
Yes, I did, and I did apply for a few. I gave a few entrance exams as well. Not that I was opposed to staying back in India, but I did wanted to explore more outside India as well. I wanted to study abroad, and I wanted to see what the experience felt like. I chose United States for a couple of reasons. One being that there are a lot of funding opportunities and a lot of innovation. It might be, I'm not saying it is, it might be easier to connect with more people through your networking, through conferences, through various events conducted by the university. I'm not sure because I've never had the Indian experience at PhD level, but it felt like I just wanted to get out of my comfort level or my comfort zone. So I wanted to explore the opportunity to come to United States. I had also accepted a few roles of PhD in India, but when I started getting offers for PhD joining their programs, I decided to pursue coming here. The other reason is my brother is here. He also did his master's here in computer science, and he sort of also played a big role in influencing my decision. Seeing how a lot of innovation and a lot of research opportunities look very good here was very important for me. So a couple of factors influenced my decision to come here.
Nice. So when you just moved, as you said, your brother was already here, so you still felt the cultural shock when you moved from India?
Absolutely. And I think everyone feels like this because after being in your comfort zone or your home for 20 plus years, then it becomes very hard for you to adapt. But it takes about a few months for you to, start seeing like basically seamlessly getting into the work, the routine of things, especially how the research is done, or maybe how simple things like food and water are different, and then your body's trying to adapt to the cycles of this. Also, that you're not at home, so you have to cook your own food. You have to basically take care of yourself, both personally, financially, science-wise. There's no support system, but what you gain through the experience is how quickly you mature, how quickly you become independent. You start catering to your needs very efficiently, and then also taking care of your science, your work, right? You're taking care of your career, and those have their own challenges. So it is definitely a learning experience. And I think that if you do grad school outside your comfort zone, and by grad school I mean PhD or masters or postdoc outside your comfort level, you're not just going to be advancing your career, but you're also learning to be a different person or an independent person. And I think that's a lot of valuable life experience attached to it. So that was definitely, a big change for me. But I found great friends. I found great mentors who guided me through my grad school program. I found good people who could help me, in times of needs when there were challenges. whether personal or science-wise. And through that, I was able to have my own family here in the United States. So I had great friends who supported me throughout my journey in research here, and I'm thankful for that.
Nice. So everyone knows PhD is, as everyone says, it's a challenging a degree. Some people count it as a degree. Some people see that as a training part.
Mm-hmm.
How was your experience? And if you can share something, how it went, and given the background that you already had experienced how research goes in India.
Right.
You went to some labs, you worked there in different times, different time zones, different projects. How you found the research different here and how challenging it was?
Mm-hmm. So the challenges for a regular PhD program, I think a lot of people will agree with me, is the first is the adjustment, because things are different. The way PhD programs are done in the United States is very different than in other countries. So in United States, while you're doing your PhD, you're also taking classes. Some classes some classes get converted into what are called as credits, and you have to accumulate a certain amount of credits during your entire PhD program. And some of the credits you can transfer from your master's program if they're relevant to your PhD program, and some cannot be transferred. So I did transfer a lot of classes from my University of Mumbai master's, but I still had a big gap to cover to basically fulfill the requirement for a PhD. So that's one aspect. You have to continuously take classes, at least minimum 2 to 3 years in the beginning to cover up for your credit work. The second thing is, depending upon the program, you have to do a year or two of teaching assistantship, whereby you're assisting a lecturer or a professor to basically assist in their teaching by conducting lectures or by conducting lab lectures. So there are lectures and there are lab sections. So I had to do that as well in order to fulfill that requirement. And the third thing is that there are something called as lab rotations in the first year. So in the first year, you're giving 3 different labs to rotate through, where you're going to every lab, looking at how the research is done in every lab. And you get the opportunity to basically see how your and your PI's relationship would look like, how your lab mates relationship would look like. Is the culture the right lab culture for you? And also, is the science exciting enough for you to continue through the 5-6 years that you're going to be spending with that lab? So it's very different, because the first year you're trying to grapple with the amount of credits you have to do, the coursework, the teaching patterns are different, how the professors teach is completely different. The second is that you have to figure out, oh, is this the right lab for me? Is this the right science? Does it excite me? Does it challenge me enough? And is it something also that I can do in that 5 to 6 years that I can? So there is a realistic expectation attached to this. And then the third is you're trying to navigate through, your daily life, your food, your water. Are you able to sustain yourself with the amount of financial support that you have been given by the university? So you're trying to figure those 3 things out. So it's definitely challenging in the beginning. And just like any other PhD, which I think is the most common thing all throughout the world, is that science is not linear. You're probably going to fail a lot in your experiments, then you succeed before you find that one blip of positive data which reaffirms your passion in science. And then you're like, yeah, this is something that looks good. This is why I am in science. And, it might have a tangible solution attached to it, whether it's cancer drug development, whether it's, plant research, or whether it's mosquito parasite relationship. Everything in research definitely has a tangible solution attached to it. So as long as it was giving me that much amount of fueling my passion, I was trying to keep as peaceful with the fact that there are a lot of challenges, but this is how I'm going to navigate through it. So just like any other PhD program, I think that's the common theme, is that we go through a lot in terms of negative data. And the best thing was that there were a lot of mentors around me, a lot of senior PhD students and postdocs who were always there to lend a sympathetic ear. And my PI was wonderful. Thankfully, I had the opportunity to work under someone who was, very kind, very generous with his time. And my lab funding situation was very good as well. So I never encountered any problems where we were scrounging around for resources or reagents or things like that. So I think that was the positive bits of my grad school experience.
Nice. So this is for all the audience and the passionate researchers in India who are trying to move out of India to pursue their PhDs. So there are things which Dr. Kulkarani has mentioned. You should always keep in mind that it's not just the cultural difference which you have to face. There are difference in their educational system also. There are things which are organizationally changed because what we have been trained for, now we have to learn something from scratch. If it is good if you can prepare yourself ahead before landing in a lab and then doing all this thing. And if you can make up mind for all the rotation system you want to go in, you can shortlist that, although you can do it once you are there also, but keeping that in mind also gives you more stability once you are there. So, Surashree, when you were about to submit your thesis, okay, let's take a step back. In couple of sentences, how you will wrap up your experience of your PhD?
Couple of sentences. I can write an essay about it, but it was very challenging. But I would say it was very rewarding at the end because I learned a lot about science and, more importantly, how to do science and how to be happy while doing it, how to accept failures and move on in life. So I think that was the most important bits of it. And I also learned a lot about myself, what I wanted in life, in the future. I basically, it sort of laid out the foundation of what was to come next, like my postdoc and my current gig at ProteinSimple. So it all sort of helped me piece the pieces of my life together in a way. So that was very useful for me.
That was a great way to say, like putting the pieces of the life. Wow. I have never heard this one before. So when you completed your PhD and you were looking for opportunities, what were the criteria you were looking for?
When I was looking for my postdoc, you mean, or when I was looking, yeah. So when I was looking for my postdoc, I was looking at a few aspects. I had applied for labs on both the West Coast and the East Coast, mainly because they are hubs of biotech and pharma innovation. So if people in India don't know this, but there are very specific hubs in the United States for industry. So there is Boston, there is New York, there is New Jersey. Then in the on the west, and then in the south there is Raleigh, North Carolina, and then on the west coast there is California. So there is San Diego, there is LA, there is San Francisco, there's Seattle. So these are your main hubs of industry. So I was trying to focus to join a lab which will bring me closer to a hub because I was in the Midwest, and B, also a lab which is focusing on very innovative science, and more specifically was doing CRISPR related genome engineering. And as we all know, CRISPR genome engineering has taken over, basically all the techniques out there to do gene assisted gene mediated engineering. So I was looking specifically for labs that would fulfill these two criteria. And across that, I found Dr. Ethan Beer's lab, which was doing amazing research in the field of genome engineering, not just for mosquito assisted or mosquito related research, but also in various aspects, and one of which was curbing antibiotic resistance by creating genome engineering techniques. So basically, when I looked at his agenda and we had a few conversations, and this is the nice thing about, doing interviews in the United States, they always invite you over or do Zoom calls like these, and they're very forthcoming with their research opportunities, what projects are going on, what funding opportunities. They also give you an opportunity to talk to different people in the team. They give you their email IDs if you want to have more one-on-one conversations to understand the lab culture, to understand the funding, if there are any issues over there, because you want to, in the end, eventually join a very stable lab. And these are the challenges faced by a lot of PhDs and postdocs who are abroad or who are international, is that they are not sure, because they have not been here in person, they are not sure of what the culture of the lab looks like. How does the PI manage the lab? Or, how does the team look like? Are there senior postdocs or PhD students who are going to be helping you? how is the publication opportunity? Are you publishing continuously, or is there a big lull or a big gap in publication? Because these are important things to consider when you join a lab. So Dr. Bia was very nice. He gave me the opportunity to learn about all of these aspects, and this was the lab I chose in the end to do my postdoctoral studies.
Nice. So for all the audiences, there are these bullet points which you always, doesn't matter that you are considering yourself as a PhD student or a postdoc or any other in a researcher theme. Always consider the publication coming out of your lab, the lab which is you're considering to join. The financial stability is one of the things which is very important and not very well acknowledged in the forums, because if you are if you are an international researcher doing research outside, then it is even more important for you because it gives you that stability. If you cannot take chances with that, because with the visa issues and the present scenario of world, how the way it is going, it is tough. So consider this also, and team is the key for any success, because you are going to spend your time with them, do research with them, how competitive it is, how you will be enjoying your time going out for lunches, having beers, whatever you want to, but you have to understand all of that. It always gives you that basic stability that when you end up joining some place, you know that you can at least have normal functionality of your, because moving and changing place it itself is a big burden, and and keeping the research in the core, because that's what takes your 70 or 80% of the time. So you have to make sure that the rest should be very stable so that you can just focus on it.
Absolutely. And it brings to the point that it's important also to research which city or where you're going to be living in. For example, a place like San Diego or a place like Boston is going to also provide you with opportunities to explore United States. Or even if you're in India, going to the city and knowing that you may have some friend circle around, or if you're going to make a new friend circle, you're going to get out of your comfort zone. Are you mentally prepared to take on this this either opportunity or crisis of making new friends and making a new social circle? Because we all are human beings, we are social, we need to have a certain amount of interaction with other people as well. So a few things to consider is like, where you're going, is this going to be a good place for you? Can your family visit if you need that kind of family time? Is that feasible option or not? So a couple of things to consider, definitely.
So taking this now to ask a question, Surashree, how do you define your family and friend, their role, you being a great researcher?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. If you go and download my thesis, you will see entire page dedicated to my parents, who were obviously very, very supportive. And of course, because they came from science background, they could understand why I was so nerdy about science from my childhood. And also, they were very supportive through me not picking medical science versus picking basic science. Because, sometimes parents are not very supportive that आपका बेटा engineer या doctor नहीं है. But my parents were very, very supportive about that. And then I also attribute a little bit of my inkling towards research or science to my brother, who was very supportive, and also my sister-in-law, who is also a biomedical engineer, and she also was very, very supportive throughout my grad school. And then I like to, I always say that in the end, you should have a friend or a partner who you can confide in about all your fears, your challenges, if you have those insecurities that, oh, maybe I can do my PhD, maybe I cannot. And I had a nice friend in me and my husband who lived with me throughout my PhD and listened to all my passionate rants about science, all my failures, or all the tears, all the unhappiness that I faced throughout the way. So definitely, I had amazing friends in my PhD program, and the same in my postdoc lab. I had good friends who mentored me in science, who mentored me in life, and who helped me to get me to this place that I am right now. So I think it's very important to keep your family and friends closer, especially when you're going through PhD program or a postdoc program, because It's very, very easy to lose focus, and it's very, very easy to, stop losing or stop having confidence in yourself. And at that time, you need everybody close to you to reinforce this, that no, you are good, you can get through this, and you will come out of this as a victor. So yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. I think this comes to every single researcher. There are days when they start questioning themselves that, am I doing right? What I am doing? Why I am doing? And
Yeah,
that's when you need all these reinforcements that, no, we trust you, you can do
yeah,
it.
yeah,
And sometimes it is more than enough just to go for that one extra day where you just get all the results and you're like, yes, I knew it's gonna happen. Just
yeah,
you just don't remember 30 minutes ago that you were questioning everything, like this might not happen, I'm not doing right thing, and now you are like, yes, I knew it is gonna
yeah.
happen, I did it.
Yeah, definitely. And this teaches us resilience, right? That one positive data will take you through the next 6 months of your research, and that teaches you resilience. So I think it's a great learning opportunity. Yeah.
So, Surashri, were there any moments or thoughts where you thought that you are not going to complete your PhD?
Yeah, there were moments. There were a few people, or there were a few challenges where, because of which I was not sure. I was also thinking of just taking a master's, which is the other option in United States you can do. Is if you're going through a PhD program, if you find that this is not something you want to do, you can take a master's, graduate, and leave the program, or you can switch over to other programs if you feel like this is not it for you. So there's a lot of flexibility, and usually PIs are very supportive because they also do not want to train somebody who is not happy in their lab. There are PIs, of course, we have heard of these stories, who are not very supportive, who are very abrasive in their nature, abusive, and things like that. But that's a different topic for a different day. But yeah, there were moments where I felt like, okay, this is probably not, for me. But I think it was when there were big periods in my PhD where there was just negative data, and it took like a couple of iterations of experiments, and a few iterations of basically trying out different techniques for me to get to a point where I started getting positive data. And this is in year 3 of my 5.5 year of 6 year of program. So it takes a long time for you to start building. Some people are lucky, they're at the right time, they join a lab or a right project, and it's at the right stage, and you get a publication immediately. I was not one of those. So I started getting publications in very late in my PhD program. But once I started getting them, I was like, yeah, this is where I had to be, because that gave me a lot of confidence. But I also want to tell people who don't publish a lot or who don't publish often that that does not mean that you're incompetent in any way. If you stick through it, and if you're resilient through the process, you will learn that you learned a lot more through your failures, and you'll probably have better life experience than anybody else. So, don't be in dismay. It's okay if you don't publish, and it's okay if you publish a lot as well. Like, you don't have to feel bad about it either. You got there at the right time, and the right opportunity came along. You became a second or a third author in your first or second year, and if people might call you, oh, ye to, this person just got it just like that. So what? You were there at the right time.
Yeah.
So everybody will have different kinds of experiences, and this is what I wanted to share.
So when you like did your basic life science and experience of research in India, then you moved to States, did your PhD, postdoc, and now how is the industry being, if you can share some of it, like the journey between academia and just doing your schooling and being postdoctoral at a university and now in industry?
Yeah, the transition story in US, like we like to call it as your transition story. They make it sound like a big deal because it is a big deal. It's transitioning from a lot of things that you have learned to a completely new set of rules, responsibilities. Everything is changing, but in a lot of ways, it is very similar. So basically talk about my transition story first. When I was in San Diego, my sole aim was to network and to gain a lot of experience in CRISPR engineering. So while I was doing my research, I spent a lot of time with the Postdoc Association, and I met a lot of people through my networks, people who are in various roles in the industry. I didn't wanted to do a very similar R&D role. I wanted to do something different. So my role, the kind of role that I wanted to pursue was a big question mark at that time, because I was not sure of what I wanted to do in industry. For those who don't know, you can do many things in industry. You don't have to be just an R&D scientist. You can be in marketing, you can be in sales, you can be in finance, you can be in program management, project management, product management. You can be in, you can also be in the processes called as process engineering, where you are part of a process in developing a product. So you can do multiple things. And this is where I started opening up my world to the opportunities that are there in industry. And along with that, I realized that there are more opportunities in industry in the United States right now versus in academics. And I didn't want it to be, I don't like grant writing specifically, so I didn't want it to be a PI who is stuck in a writing, the whole the whole circle of get grants, support your research, try to get more grants, support your research. So I wanted to definitely get out of academics. The other aspect is that there is much more financial freedom in industry roles versus in academics. And the third aspect is there is better work-life balance in industry versus in academics. Now, I've heard of people in academics having good work-life balances, and I think kudos to them for being able to do that. I did not find that for myself. So this is why I say that, for me, these three things were important. So I started looking for roles that would feed into, a couple of skills that I have technically as well as soft skills. So technically, I was good at protein work. I was good at genetic engineering, and soft skills wise, I was good at communication skills. I was good at presentations. I was good at talking with people, basically giving them the right technique and how to do these things. So I wanted to merge them too. And this is why I decided to take application scientist role. So yeah, a lot of interviewing, a lot of heartbreak, because interviews in industry are tough. There are a lot of cycles that you go through with different people, not just the HR and the hiring manager, but there are some startups who you have to interview all the way to the VP and the CEO and things like that. And the imposter syndrome within you that maybe I can't do it is real. It hits you very hard when you are transitioning to industry. Yeah.
Okay. So now with this short story of Dr. Surashree Kulkarni, we are at the edge of our conversation. And now I would like to ask you a question. Do you feel a researcher celebrity?
I don't feel like a celebrity as a Hollywood or a Bollywood or a sports celebrity, but I do like to celebrate my research, because there was a lot of hard work, there was a lot of tears, a lot of joy, and a lot of happiness attached to it. So I definitely feel like I should celebrate my research. Even now that I'm in ProteinSimple, I like to celebrate the moments where I'm able to help people with their research. And, I'm grateful for this journey.
Thank you very much, Surashree, because that's exactly what we do at Researcher Celebrity, powered by Empowering Science Foundation. We celebrate every single researcher and their research worldwide. So we are on the same page at the entire conversation. And thank you very much for taking your time out. Now, I would like to ask our audience that they can write directly to Surashree if they want any mentorship or any guidance, if they have questions, or they can write to Empowering Science Foundation, and we can connect with you with all our researcher celebrities so that you can have a bigger thought of yourself, because that is very important. Once committing for this, there is no step back. And what we believe is once a researcher, always a researcher. So if you have that, there might be days, ups and downs, but you are not going to give up. And that is what is life also about. So research is very much close to life. And with this, we'll say thank you, Surashree, for taking your time out, sharing the journey. And for all our viewers, we'll see you in another episode of Empowering Science Foundation. And this month is specifically dedicated for young researchers like Surashree and women researchers like Surashree in our field. And we'll see you in another episode of Researcher Celebrity next time. Thank you.